Building a computer can be immensely rewarding. First off, there's the amount of money that you save. Secondly, you get all the customization of choosing your own components. And thirdly, you get all the knowledge necessary to change out those components later if you need to upgrade your PC. But finally, and most importantly in my mind, is that it just feels really cool to build something so darn useful. Several weeks back, I streamed the whole experience of me putting my new PC together, which came with its own bundle of issues. I wouldn't recommend streaming a build if you're not knowledgeable about setting up a stream of that nature. Okay, can you guys hear me now? So my lav mic died. We are losing everything. But anyway, in this video I'm going to go over the process of building the PC and give you some tidbits of knowledge that I gained while building it. And most importantly, I'd tell you what I'd do differently if I were to do it again. But if you're planning on building your own PC, the first thing I would recommend is that you go to pcpartpicker.com and choose your parts from there. PC Part Picker makes it easy to pull your parts in that you want and see what parts are compatible with those components so that you don't mess up your build. This will be an interesting stream. I'm a little bit concerned about my reputation, which might sound funny considering I haven't been streaming long, I haven't made many videos, but I'm a computer engineer, and if I screw this up, not only am I going to be down a bunch of money, I'm also gonna feel really dumb because my degree is in computer engineering. The first component that we'll start with is the motherboard. In my case, it's a Z790 Aros Master X. It's a pretty long name. But anyway, I recommend first putting in a few different components before you actually mount the motherboard into the case. It makes it a lot easier in the long run. Here we go. Okay, so first off, we're gonna install the CPU and the memory, and then we'll put it into the case. I should probably have gotten some scissors, but it's fine. We'll just, this one isn't sharp. Oh, look at that. It's still working like a dream. Look at that. The CPU that I'm using is an Intel i9 14th Gen CPU. This is the most nerve-wracking part of the process for me because I'm always scared to accidentally break a pin or something as I'm setting the CPU into the case. Luckily, they do make it pretty easy. All you have to do is line up a little arrow that is on the CPU itself with an arrow that is on the board, and once you have that in the right corner, then you can just set it down into the slot. And there are these little notches on the sides of the slot that will help it line up in place. All you have to do is make sure that it's sitting flat before you actually pull the latch down to lock it in place. We've got the PC here, the CPU, I mean. So here we have it. Okay, so first we need to find, so we've got this little arrow, right down here. Everything's mirrored, so I'm having a hard time pointing. Golden triangle. It's very small. In fact, it's probably not showing up on camera very well. The arrow's on this corner of the motherboard. So we take it out very carefully. We line up the golden arrow with the gray arrow. We set it down. It's beautiful. So it looks like it is all centered. This scares me. Okay. At first I was worried it wasn't centered, but I think this plate is just slightly out of line, the holding plate. But it's good. It's in. It's in. We're gonna want to put these in sockets 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. It depends on the instructions. Yeah. So it actually tells me here, which is really nice. So we start with A2 and B2. Okay, we got some DDR5 RAM. So we got the first blade. There we go. Snapped in beautifully. Now we go to slot 4. As I mentioned on stream, it matters which slots you put your memory into. Luckily for me, on the motherboard it told me which slots to put it into. But if you're unable to see it on the motherboard, then you can check the instructions with the motherboard, or you can just Google that model of motherboard and easily figure out which slots you should use first. A general rule of thumb is that they'll always be spaced out by 1. So slots 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, but never right next to each other. Before I forget, we're about to come across something that I would do differently next time. Most CPU coolers have some sort of mounting bracket that you have to attach to the motherboard so that you can then mount the cooler to the motherboard. And in my case, I forgot to do this. I didn't think about it, and I ended up having to do it much later in the process and very awkwardly get behind the motherboard and kind of maneuver around it. It was terrible. It was a terrible situation. So I would recommend checking to see if there's a mounting bracket for your cooler before you actually screw the motherboard into your case.
Here we are. It's even gonna fit in frame. This thing is huge. It's a lot bigger than I expected. Okay, I'm gonna put this somewhere safe. So it should go right here. Smaller the case, the harder. Yeah, that is true. I bought an obnoxiously large case for that very reason. So now what we usually, I'm pretty sure what I want to do next is put in the power supply. Can I get mod? Sorry. It's a prestigious position, you know? You gotta work for it. My one mod, I shouldn't say that. Maybe I shouldn't admit that my mod isn't here. Look, I've got plenty of free time on my hands. I can ban anybody I need to, so it's fine. Oh, it's just metal latches. 1 hour in and remove the side panel. Nice. Oh, I'm embarrassed.
But don't worry, guys. Hold up, here we go. There you go. Look at that. We're set. Up next is the GPU. At the back of the PC case, there will be these little vents that each have a screw holding them in, and you will remove those, and those are where the I/O port on the GPU will go. To figure out which ones you need to remove, just line up your GPU where it is going to go inside the case and see which of the vents block the I/O port on the back. Once those are out of the way, take your GPU and carefully line it up with the slot and press it firmly into the slot with even pressure on both sides so that it doesn't go in at an angle. The webcam. Look at that. Look at that beauty. Oh. Okay. And now the next component that we're going to put into the PC is the CPU cooler. We could just trust the thermal paste that they have on there. Although I've heard excess thermal paste is better than too little thermal paste. One YouTuber tested varying amounts and even tested in the unlikely event that thermal paste gets in between your CPU and the motherboard, that the CPU will continue working normally. Even though my CPU cooler came with thermal paste already applied, I added some more just to make sure that there was proper heat transfer. Some sites suggest that mixing different thermal pastes isn't good, so you might want to clean off the existing thermal paste before you add your own. Okay, so this guy is secure. This has been too long of a stream. Okay, we're gonna try plugging this in. If it turns on, we're hyped. If it doesn't, we're sad. Either way, stream probably ends. It's so beautiful. It's gorgeous. To wrap up, I'll do a quick breakdown of the order I would recommend putting the parts into the PC. If you're interested, I put links to the parts that I used in this build in the description. Each of these links is to where I bought the part from, but I would recommend putting all your parts into PC Part Picker because it will tell you which sites have the best price for each of the components that you're going to be using. Here is a list of the essential components you will need to build a PC. Motherboards can come with Ethernet and/or Wi-Fi pre-installed, but that isn't always the case. CPU coolers come with two main form factors, air or liquid cooling. There's even a secret third option called immersion cooling that is definitely overkill for most builds. Storage comes in two main types, hard disk drives and solid state drives. Hard disk drives are much cheaper, but are very slow compared to solid state drives. If you can afford an SSD for your build, get one to install the operating system on. This will make your PC way faster. There are two types of SSDs, SATA and NVMe. NVMe's are much faster than SATA SSDs, and their price reflects that. PC Part Picker will help you choose the right wattage for your power supply, but the higher end your components are and the number of fans you add will increase how many watts you will end up needing. With the list of essentials out of the way, this is the order that I would put the parts into the PC. We start with the motherboard. Put the CPU, RAM, and NVMe memory into their slots. Attach the CPU cooler bracket to the motherboard. Mount the motherboard into your PC case.
Install the GPU and power supply. Add in the CPU cooler and any extra fans that you have. Insert any hard disk drives or SSDs that you have and connect them to their associated cables. Manage your cables and get everything connected to the power supply. And that's it. This is only my second time building a PC, so if there's anything that I've missed or any advice that you would add, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and if this video helped you at all, please consider subscribing.